Welcome to our executive video interview series on leveraging modern networks to better serve citizens. I'm Wyatt Cash with Scoop News Group, and we're delighted to be speaking with Rajiv Rao, Chief Technology Officer and Deputy CIO for the state of New York. Rajiv, thank you so much for joining us. So, Rajiv, I'd like to start by asking, what steps has your office taken to help agencies across the state of New York over the last couple of years to modernize its network performance and to improve greater resiliency?
Thank you, Cash. That's a great question. So let me back up a little bit. So New York State is not a federated state in the sense that all of the exec agencies under the governor's leadership report up in terms of IT into one organization. And so our responsibility to manage all of the IT infrastructure and all of the applications that are hosted by these agencies. So to give you context in that, we manage something around close to about 300,000 ports, 1,400 plus miles of state-owned fiber, and about 5,000 branch offices where state services are delivered out of. That includes DMV, Health and Human Services, Social Services, and like, right? So the context is all of that is singly managed by a single organization that reports up to me. And so what we inherited way back when was a mixed bag of agencies that were, some of them were still on token ring, some were running 10 meg connections out, still a majority of them were T1 connections out into remote offices. And so where we started and where we are today, just to give you a sense, is now we run a backbone between our two data centers that's about 40 gigs and soon to be 100. And then all our remote locations are running close to 10 gigs at a minimum with a 1 gig drop out into the desktops. So significant changes from where we started to where we are today. And that is just to account for the operating system and the demands that they put on the wire, right? It's not even agency or citizen-facing side. That is in the data center. But this is, I'm talking about remote offices and our campus networks and all of those things. So significant amount of investment in that space, but a lot more to be still done.
Well, it certainly sounds like you inherited a wide array of capabilities. Can you talk a little bit about what were some of the key network challenges you were hearing from agency leaders across New York State? And how have modern solutions like SDN, WAN, and others made a difference?
So the challenges for us have been the locations and having that ability at the last mile to get that bandwidth that we were looking for. Not everywhere was it possible for us to get a circuit pulled up there or have enough resources to provide that end-to-end secure connection, right? So that's where we were pre-pandemic. We were very aggressively pursuing SD-WAN as a means to address what we believed would be the de facto template that we would be using for our branch offices, where we would get out of that business and just manage the edges on both ends and let the plumbing be done by somebody else with some kind of an SLA to make sure we were getting what we were supposed to get in terms of performance. However, during the pandemic, things changed, right? We got pulled into more citizen-centric services and the need to deliver those, right? So we started to see a shift in our internal demands for more web-based applications and making our internet presence a little more robust. And so, yeah, we still have that work to do, but we're now more focused on changing the way we deliver services so that it is not that point-to-point requirements are becoming less demanding or more in demand versus being able to access those applications and those services from wherever you are, right? So, and that fundamentally has become the shift in the industry. It's not just New York State. Wherever you go, the traditional hub and spoke model where you had the branch offices and the robust pipes between the two, we still have those. We need them, but there's also this pivot to being able to access and deliver services from wherever you are has also been added onto that. So it's a mixed bag at this point in time. And so we'll continue to make that investment in SD-WAN where it makes sense and where it is not cost effective for us to do it, but also continue to modernize our applications so they can be delivered over the internet as well.
Well, I'm picking up on that idea of delivering services differently. How do you see the role of managed network service providers helping state agencies improve overall network performance and security compared to the older model trying to deploy upgrades on their own?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So security is the key there, right? You build trust with your partners, with your business partners in this case. So in that space, if the network vendor community is going to be talking to New York State, my suggestion would be to come in with an idea that suggests security as an overlay on top. That it's not a question; it's a de facto include in the solution, right? Security, if we don't have security in place, then we have to plumb over the top. We have to add additional pieces. And so for me, an end-to-end solution requires you to bake that in there. And better still, if you adhere to some of our tech stack standards so that we get alignment when it comes to visibility on what's happening on the security side, whether it's in our SOC, whether it is in our SIM, whatever it is, right? Those integrations are important because nothing like having disparate logging going all over the place and we don't have visibility across the enterprise. So if you're coming in to solve a problem with New York State and security is going to be baked in, then let's make sure we are understanding what that really means. Security just doesn't mean logging it into a syslog server. It also means being able to use it in our JSOC stack, in our SIM, in our SOAR, and all of those other things that we're starting to mature towards.
Well, it certainly sounds like you've been modernizing in a lot of areas up and down the stack. Can you talk to us a little bit then about how are your internal agency customers benefiting from this greater connectivity and service delivery as a result of network modernization?
First of all, let's talk a little bit about the security aspect. What we have done in a single stroke with consolidation has improved the security posture of all agencies, regardless of how big or how small they were, or how big their budgets were, or how big their IT team was. Now all of them have that same level of security, and we continue to bring security to bear on the consolidated infrastructure. So we're always investing in that, and that all of the agencies benefit from that right off the bat. In terms of performance, in terms of resiliency, in terms of high availability, all of the agencies now have that because our edge devices are redundant across multiple data centers. So we have not one ingress egress center, we have multiple. So there's multiple paths from the internet into our data centers, into our cloud implementation. So agencies that did not have any of those, all of them are now getting high availability. They're getting a WAF service. They're getting geofencing. They're getting CONUS enforcement. So when it comes to them addressing their compliance, whether it's with IRS or HIPAA or CGIS, we're easily able to demonstrate all the controls that they need, right? In the past, that used to be let's get a vendor in here. How do I do CONUS, or how do I do geofencing, or how do I do, PUB 10 certified compliance? All that's now included in the design aspect of things. So whenever we design something or we introduce something, all those compliances are factored in. So they don't have to worry about having to produce a report to the IRS and then have an exception in there or whatever that is. So that's all baked into all of our go-forward strategies.
Sounds like a lot that you've accomplished there. That's very impressive.
Oh, it's fun.
That's terrific. Well, lastly, Rajiv, what additional advice would you offer other state agencies as they look to modernize their networks? And I'll keep harping about security for the simple reason, right? You're just going to be a step ahead of the bad guys when it comes to security. Remember, it only takes one to get, especially in the government space, to be embarrassed. And then as custodians of citizen data, it is imperative that we focus heavily on security. Just getting a network in there is not the answer anymore. It used to be where a point-to-point was great. You could get a point-to-point and you could kind of check it off and say that's a private connection, and so we're good. Most attacks happen from the inside for the most part, right? And so having a secure connection is not the end of it. All your endpoints,
all of those that are hanging off the other far end have to be, verified and validated as well. So saying that a vendor can come in and say, we can give you a secure connection does not end there. I suggest that the business partners, in this case, extend that conversation beyond just the plumbing to a comprehensive solution that extends and factors in things like EDR and all of those things that the network can work with and intelligently or dynamically address at the port level. Those are things that we should be starting to look for, right? Because containment, the speed at which you can contain is going to make a big impact on how badly you're going to be impacted if something goes south. So I'm looking for partnerships where our business partners on the plumbing side, on the transport layer, are able to work with our other business partners to say, how can we build an ecosystem that can learn from telemetry elsewhere and react accordingly to align to the state's policies on what's going to happen with quarantining, with mitigation, and whatever that is going to be, right? So my suggestion is, let's not just talk about, I can build you a pipe, I can give you 10 gigs, I can give you 40 gigs, I can give you 100 gigs. Okay, great. But how do I then say, but whatever comes through that pipe is guaranteed to be protected and safe? Not just, I'm building you a highway, but God help you if anything comes through there, right? It cannot be, that conversation cannot stop there anymore. Now it has to be an ecosystem. How do I fit into your ecosystem and how do I bring value to your ecosystem was what I look for from a business partner, right? It's not enough to just say, I have 5,000 miles of fiber, we can drop fiber anywhere. That's not the answer anymore, right? So, and then what, right? And then what? That should be the conversation.
Some great recommendations. Really appreciate that. Rajiv Rao, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to share your insights on what you've been accomplishing in New York State and how network modernization is helping you support your agencies and ultimately the citizens in the state of New York.
Well, thank you. And it was a pleasure talking with you.